Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another photo mishmash. This one being broadcast live January 15th, 2020. Still sounds a little funny to say. We're going to be talking about a drone that might give DJI a serious run for its money. And Instagram is hiding photoshopped images, or at least flagging them. We got that and so much more. And to join me today to talk about all of that, my good friend and co-host today, David Carr. David, how are you?
I'm good, man. It's good to be back. Thank you again. It's been a couple months.
It has. You know, we like Steve. I like Steve, but we need to figure out how to get you on the show regularly because I think it's a great balance.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Well, I appreciate it when it happens, and I understand when it doesn't because everybody's got things going on. And I love Steve, so you know.
I'll tell you what, it's been fun to have a pretty consistent run of this show as our, all of our travel schedules have been fairly light over the holiday kind of stretch. But I was filling out my little calendar a couple nights ago, and we get busy. A lot of travel. So
yeah, you guys have been traveling a lot more than I have even. But that's about to pick up for me a little bit.
Yeah, both of us as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So, that we start off this part of the show with kind of a review of stuff that you all community members may have missed. And when I say community members, I mean both those who the PhotoRec TV audience and those who also have joined Penn. And I'll just remind you that there's several articles and videos that go out every week on Penn. And right now is a fantastic time to jump into the Penn membership system because you can get ridiculous savings. Everything you need to know is at photorec.tv/Penn. But David, I actually wanted to start with you.
Sure.
You've been doing some podcasting for a while now on photography, and you've got a fair number of episodes out. I was listening to the most recent interview the other day. Just good quality stuff. Again,
thank you.
One of the things I love about having you on is the audio quality. It's just fantastic. And your podcast continues that. Thank you.
Thank you. It's all about this microphone right here, man. I actually bought another one just so I could have, two people speaking. And the podcast has been a lot of fun for me. My dad was in broadcasting. He was in radio. So I think something runs in the family there. But it's so cool to be able to just, anybody can start a podcast. Like whatever you want to talk about, you can just put it out there. And if somebody wants to listen, they will. And if they won't, if they don't want to listen, they don't have to. So I'm trying to get people to actually listen and actually tune in. And so the goal, as it should be with anything, is to just make it more and more excellent each time and to really deliver content that people can use and just really to be an encourager, because on a show like a podcast, we're talking about photography, which is visual. So I can't show anything. We can't really do image reviews. It's just talk. But I figure if we can make that talk engaging and keep people's interest, it'll be good. Definitely.
So right down below this video is a link to David Carr's podcast. You can easily subscribe. Who's your target audience?
Well, I think at this point, my target audience is the beginner to sort of amateur hobbyist photographers, people who, they know a thing or two, but I'm obviously not speaking to people who've been doing it for 40 years and have been published in National Geographic or anything like that. I'm really trying to speak to the people that are where I was just a few years ago and just trying to help them along, and give them that encouragement. So one of the episodes that has been my most popular one was just called Self-Doubt. And I recorded this, almost a year ago, just myself. And so I'm actually recording another one tomorrow with a guest, and we're going to talk about that some more because I know it's something that so many people really struggle with. And we just want to give encouragement and not just, there's a way to encourage people through, I don't want to say rebuke, but just through, saying don't do this thing anymore. If it's not working, don't do it, but sometimes you don't know what works until you do it and you see that it doesn't work. And so I just want to encourage people to push through that. So I'm going to talk a little more about that. It's been a popular topic.
Nice. Great. So again, linked right down below. You can also follow David on Instagram, as you should do. He's a fantastic photographer. And you were headed back to Yellowstone, and you posted one of the mountain lion pictures from working with animals in Montana was your recent picture. Just gorgeous. I'm looking forward to that too. It's been a long time since I've been back to animals in Montana as well.
Yeah.
That was a long time.
That was fantastic. I can't wait to go back.
Yeah. That's good stuff.
Phenomenal. Yeah.
Cool. Good. All right. And other content that you all might have missed, and just a reminder, the show notes along with David Carr's podcast link. The show notes are right down below. It takes you to photorec.tv, which is all hosted on Squarespace, which is also a sponsor of this website. You can save 10% off your first purchase of Squarespace by going to squarespace.com/photorectv. I don't know why I had to think about that for a moment, but I did. Because you can also get to it by going, I made a shortcut, photorec.tv/web or something, but I can't remember if that still works. So go to the right place. Go to the right place. One other thing that we want to talk about, a couple other pen articles. And kind of when we talk about pen articles, we'll also take a moment and welcome the chat room. Chat, thank you so much for joining us today. I see some of you are not having such a great day. Ursula, I hope we can make you smile a little bit. And Sue, I hope you're resting that wrist and that it's not truly broken. So we don't want to. Yeah, I know. And as Roy is reminding you all, if you've got a question for David or I that you would like us to answer, sometimes we answer them as we're going along because we're easily distracted by good questions in the chat. And sometimes we just collect them and answer them at the end of the show as well. So be sure to put those in there. I put up a deal of the day before we get into other things. Aki just sent me a couple of these tiny little PD chargers. PD means that they support the power delivery method of charging, which means almost all of our cameras, including the very picky Canon EOS R system, should charge from this, which is pretty sweet. So that's nice. That's exciting. And I'm really happy to recommend this. It is a very fast charger, USB-C, 2 of them. I was charging my phone and my camera very nicely earlier, but the Sony system is not picky about you plug it into any USB device and it will charge. I do suspect it will charge a little faster into something quality like this. I noticed that there's a 20% discount on these today. So again, show notes, there's a link to that right down below.
I like saving money.
Saving money is good, especially when we're buying all this stuff, trying to save a little bit here or there. And then, yeah, with the saved money, I do have a suggestion. As you all know, there are some really serious wildfires in Australia soon. I feel like the media has started to kind of say, we're not talking about this as much. I'm going to share my screen here for a second. Oh, you know what? I just realized I started this in Chrome and we might have an audio issue. Can everybody still hear? David, can you still hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Okay, I think this is working then. So Petapixel tweeted out or shared out this image from Matt Abbott. He is, I think, an Associated Press photographer currently in Australia documenting these horrendous wildfires. And this is just kind of an iconic Australian shot. Obviously, we've got a kangaroo, poor thing, in front of just this. And they're still burning, even though the media hasn't really talking about it as much, or at least I haven't seen it. But the devastation, the wildlife impact, the impact on the humans living in the region has just been so dramatic.
It's so heartbreaking, man. I've been there 4 times. I've been to Australia 4 times. I have a lot of friends from Australia, and it's such a beautiful country, such beautiful people, and it's just absolutely heartbreaking. And I was actually looking on the news yesterday. I was just kind of Googling, like, what's the latest on the wildfires? We're not hearing anything, like you're saying. Yeah. And it's frustrating when something is so front and center and then just gets replaced with the Golden Globes or something, or whatever. It just, I get it, but
right.
Let's not forget what's happening.
Right. So I just want to give a quick shout out to everybody. Oops, I opened it in the wrong tab. Matt Granger, an Australian, has put together a fundraiser, and I am selling a print in that. But I want to just highlight this because we've got some other fantastic offers. Peter Hurley usually sells courses for much more, but you can get these for like almost half the price, and all profits are going to go towards support this charity. I've only been to an Australian airport, so I don't really have any nice pictures from Australia. The closest, though, is my favorite photo I captured last year. I am selling this for $400. Every dime goes to the proceeds for this charity. And then there's just some additional awesome people contributing here towards this charity. And so I just love it when the community can give back a little bit. And we'll be talking a little bit more about community and ways as photographers we can give back a little bit later in the show. But if you haven't yet, take a moment, look at mattgranger.com/fire, see if you can give a few bucks, or he's got links directly to the charities. If you would rather just give directly, you don't need any of this education or don't want to spend any on it, then I would suggest you do that. And I just thank Matt for putting this together and for reaching out to the community and asking for folks to contribute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And we'll hide that back again. And let me figure out what we're going to talk about next. I think I closed the page. I'm a little disorganized today, David Carr. I know what we're going to talk about. We were going to talk about you publishing a nice little article about the cost of switching.
Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. Well, I've actually toyed around with the idea of switching, to be honest. I haven't made that public. Not that it's going to, be breaking news.
I can put that title on the show now if you want. Breaking news. David Carr is thinking about switching.
Yeah. It's something I pondered. I don't know, because I'm a gearhead, more than anything. But as I've considered that, and this is not the first time, this is probably the fifth time in the last 3 or 4 years that I've just thought about it. But as I've considered that, I've noticed that, it's always kind of the thing people say is well, I couldn't do that. I have to buy all new glass. Or once you've kind of bought into one system, you kind of have to stay. And I just don't believe that. Now I believe that if you have bought into a system and spent thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars, you're not going to get all that money back. But if you buy smart, and this is one of the things I said in the article, is if you buy smart and sell smart, that's a no-brainer. But you can justify, especially if you're making any money doing photography, or if you've just got disposable income and it doesn't matter that much, then knock yourself out. But I think I talk about this all the time. I buy a lot of used lenses. And the reason being is because there's so many of them out there that are in immaculate condition. They've probably never been used. They probably sat on a shelf, or they were just some sort of demo model, but there's so much stuff out there you can buy that's I say used, but it's just really lightly pre-owned, and you can save a ton of money. And I've bought a lot of my lenses that way. And so I feel like I can justify when I go to sell them, I end up not losing much at all based on what I purchased them for. So it's almost like if I sell a lens and lose $200 and I had it for 2 years, it's like it cost me $200 to rent that lens for 2 years. Yeah. It's basically how that works out. Yeah. So that's pretty great. And so as I've started thinking about that, I'm like, no, you can switch. I mean, you're going to take a loss, but it's not like your equipment has no value. If you buy good stuff and are smart about how you buy it and sell it, a lot of it holds a good bit of value, more than you would think.
Yeah. Yeah. And it always cracks me up on forums when a new camera comes out. This is kind of related to this. And people are like, oh man, now my camera's worthless. You bought your camera as an investment. I mean, did you talk to your money guy? Is that what he suggested? That's not where you're investing your money. You're buying that because you're going to use it.
Yeah. And it's, I even have to point a finger back at myself, because we all know that the gear is not what makes us great photographers. It can help us achieve things that, one lens might be able to do something that another one won't do. And I am a big believer in the aesthetics of things. I mean, certain equipment will inspire you more. I don't know why. It just, sometimes you hold a certain camera, you're like, I just love shooting with this. And if you love shooting with it, then you're going to love shooting, and you're going to shoot more photos and probably become a better photographer. So there is value in buying the stuff that even just feels good to use, as long as it's delivering the quality. But yeah, I mean, it's so easy to get caught up in the gear, and I really have to urge everybody, including myself, to take a step back from that and remember what is all this for? It's to make images that are beautiful.
Yeah.
There's my dog.
Your dog agrees.
Yes.
But I just say that, but if you have the money, if you have the time, and you're interested in trying out another system, yeah.
I mean, totally. I think so. It's in this day and age, everything's changing so rapidly that I don't know. I don't know if it's best to stay put, or if it's I don't know. We'll see. You'll
Yeah,
hear about it for sure.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear more from you as you kind of explore these options. You shoot with Nikon currently.
I do,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, and we're going to talk about the lens rental teardown of the 24-70, looking like a beautiful lens soon.
Yes.
Somewhat related to this, I try to work this discussion in every
Sure.
show. My regular listeners and viewers might be a little tired of it, but I'm going to Thailand on a vacation, and my original plan. Thank you. Yeah, I'm a little excited. My original plan was a GoPro, the Mavic Mini, and my phone with maybe some Moment lenses. Super lightweight, right? But able to capture like land and sea and air shots, like cover the whole gamut. But then, and I'm going to blame Tim, who's in the chat right now. I already blamed him in person the other day. But he went on a Hawaii vacation last year and had a really nice tropical Milky Way shot. And then I thought, oh man, I'm going to have multiple nights basically on a beach in the tropics. And yes, my Pixel 4 can capture the stars. And yes, it could capture the Milky Way, but certainly not as good as a professional camera.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of dumb to leave my professional camera at home, aren't I? And
yeah,
I asked Chat's opinion last week if I could stick to this whole like leaving the pro camera at home, and they all were like, "No, you can't do that."
Yeah, not when you're going somewhere as epic as Thailand. I think. Yeah, I mean, you can get by. I've had that dream. I think we all have of like the one camera traveling simple. Like you see it in like a magazine or a commercial. You see some cool hipster guy with like his, messenger bag and like his one little Leica camera or something. And it's like, that seems really cool and sexy. And yet you're limited. You're just going to be limited. So, I mean, I'm not saying you can't do cool stuff with it, but it'd be so unfortunate to be in a situation where you're like, oh, if I only had my stuff, the stuff I would normally shoot with.
It'll be so fun to check into Steve, because I think you basically just described Steve. For those who don't know, Steve is a regular host on the show as well. And he is currently in Maui, Hawaii for his daughter's wedding. And he took just the XE3. Is that right? XE3 with, I think, a 24. Actually, I don't know what lens. 35. Brian Scanlon, if you're in chat, you would probably know. And that's all he's got there. So I'm really interested to see what he says when he comes back. Now, he just bought that camera. So I know when he comes back, he's going to be like, it was awesome. Because that's how you feel when you got a new camera.
Absolutely.
Awesome. I don't know.
No, I mean, I think it's cool. I mean, I'm excited to see what he comes back with, It'll be great. But I just, I know that feeling of wanting to be really simple and light and not carry a lot of stuff. And you know what? I've done that before. I've gotten my bag all ready. I'm about to walk out the door. I've got one body, 2 lenses, and sure enough, before I get in the car, crap, and I run and grab like 2 more things and throw them in and don't use them. And but
yeah,
it's the dilemma.
Yeah, but then it becomes chat. You're suggesting some like an all-in-one lens, and then I've got the whole range covered, and yeah, that's certainly an option. I don't love the quality. I was thinking more something wide for the Milky Way, and then maybe one other prime. But it does become really tricky. And then today, this is with my Sony system. Then today I was on the phone with Sigma talking about some lenses and some upcoming lens review stuff. And they were like, hey, have you reviewed our Sigma FP yet? That's the world's smallest full frame. And I was like, no, but I am trying to do a really lightweight trip to Thailand. I wonder if that would be a good option. But I need to weigh out. I mean, I literally want to see what is the weight of, yes, the Sigma FP is light. But the lens that I'd probably have to bring for astrophotography is their 14-24 f2.8, and that thing's a brick. It's fantastic and it's a great value, but it's a brick.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that would cancel out.
I was thinking too when I was writing my little article, my comments about switching. I was thinking about gear, and like a lot of times we say with mirrorless, we always tout the benefits of it being smaller and lighter, which is true. But I don't find that being like the biggest deal breaker for me. But even going from look at that.
Once you put a lens on there, a lot of that goes out the window.
Yeah, I mean, I carry around my Z6, and then sometimes I've got my D850, which is quite a bit larger. And I mean, anything's bigger than a phone. So like anytime you can't slip it in your pocket, you're carrying something bulky around. And I'm not saying it doesn't matter, but it's like, I think we get a little, in the same way that people get hung up on, I couldn't switch because I've got all these lenses. If people get, oh, I have to have something smaller and lighter. It's like, yeah, well, it's not that much smaller and lighter. It's just, you can carry more stuff, which is cool, but I don't know. I think sometimes we make mountains out of molehills.
Yeah, we definitely do. Absolutely. We're good at that. Humans are.
We are.
Let's dive into the Lightroom section. This is one of our favorite parts of the show. You have submitted images to us. David Carr and I are going to take a few moments and look at them in Lightroom and make some suggestions. Mostly this is about editing in Lightroom, although occasionally we pop over to Photoshop as well. This is kind of designed to give you some tips and techniques for working on your own images in Lightroom. It's not so much an image critique, although that does come out. And I say it's not so much an image critique because as Pen members, you have multiple ways of getting feedback on your images. You can post in the Facebook group, you can post in the community forum, and you could submit to the monthly image review, which is just a awesome once a month. We pick several photographers, myself, David Carr, you've guest judged before.
Yes. And
sit down and just kind of evaluate these images, give feedback again at a professional level, similar to as if you're submitting to PPA, the Professional Photographers of America. They have a yearly image competition. And so it's just really cool to be able to offer all of these different levels of feedback. And if you want that in your photography, it's one of the best ways to grow. If you want that, you should join Pen, photorec.tv/Pen. So sharing my screen again. I think I actually have to stop screen share and share it again and say entire screen share. And hopefully, if you all heard us before, you should hear us now as well. And open up Lightroom. And everybody sees that and still hears us. And David, you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Whoa.
All right. First up is Tanya. Tanya happened to win last month. So that was December's image competition. She was the winner with a fantastic self-portrait image that just really nicely done, Tanya. You have some nice, fantastic body of work, and this is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Yeah, I saw the image review from the last one. Yeah, very, very, pretty amazing work. You know, it's kind of like, it's very unique and it's very different than a lot of what I'm used to seeing. So,
yeah, this is one of those images that comes up, and I'm honestly not sure what I do to it. I mean, it's good. I don't see anything that jumps out at me that it really needs. I think you really thoughtfully placed your subject in this really neat spot, and overall composition is good. The only thing that I might suggest that it could add is maybe a little bit of softening of the background. It feels kind of magical and mysterious, you know, this place and this time and this moment of this butterfly right here. And I'm going to guess the butterfly's photoshopped in, but again, you have those skills. It looks great in there. And it's just such a nice, sharp little piece of color.
Yeah. Nicely done.
Yep. I mean, I might take a brush, and you could do this in Photoshop or Lightroom, and get the brush and bring texture, clarity, and sharpness down, and then just kind of brush around this outside area just to soften some of this here. Some of it is a little bit out of focus. I really like that. I think I'd try to get a little bit more of it out of focus.
Yeah, maybe bring the subject even more. And it makes the subject more in focus, even though it's in focus. I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I'll bring it down even more. And the didn't mean to do that one. And the one other thing is the only other splash of yellow is a couple of these little leaves down here. And they catch my eye, and I get pulled down to those. So you can get the Q tool, or again Photoshop, and let's just kind of try to replace just a couple of those real quick.
I was going to say the same thing. That was the only thing really. There were a couple white spots up in the top left, like, they're not big deals, but like, we're always looking for those things, you know, especially on the McKay tours when we do the reviews. We're always looking for just little highlights that might pull you away, just to make it as pure as possible. It's such a cool, you know, otherworldly kind of image, and but the light, I mean, that burst of light coming down, I mean, this is just very creative. I think that's what I've seen with Tanya's work so far, is like this. Obviously, there's this composite thing going on. It's not like this, it happened exactly like this, but there's this thing about just coming up with ideas and executing them that I'm jealous of, because I don't, I feel like I don't, like I might get an idea, but to actually go out and implement it is not always something that I follow through on.
To truly make it, to truly
Yeah.
make an image. I agree.
Yeah.
I definitely have some jealousy here. Tanya does say the Photoshop, the butterfly is photoshopped in. How about the light? Is that natural, Tanya? And I'll just show folks, if you want to try to introduce a little light to your image, you can get a graduated or radial filter, throw that down onto the page, and then, you know, warm it up. Oh, invert, so it's inside. Warm it up and brighten it up a little bit. I'm just going to be dramatic for a second. So you can kind of fake that at sometimes, or you know, kind of extra emphasize. So now I'm going to turn it, maybe make it one of these over here. So you could just add another one in if you wanted to feel like there was some more light coming in. It doesn't quite match the same tonality as that, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
Cool. Nice
really
job,
cool.
Tanya.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Liz submitted too. Sorry, Liz, I just noticed this morning when I brought them up that they are very small. So we really can't make any judgments about sharpness, anything of that sort, but we will talk a little bit about composition. I tell you, both of these images look very nice. If we had larger resolution ones, I think that they are lovely images. But let's start here with this hawk on a tree limb. First thing I think is, I noticed that he's dead center and he's looking off to the left. I would love, so I've got the crop tool up and I have aspect ratio turned off so I can do whatever I want. Might end up with a square though. Putting him on that right-hand third. David, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's just, and I don't know what kind of resolution this image was shot at, and I don't know if she had already cropped it, but definitely when, especially with wildlife, with birds and things like that, a lot of times they are on a branch and the background, the surroundings around the bird or wildlife, whatever it is, it could be a squirrel, whatever. A lot of times they're very, just very neutral backgrounds, or there's usually not a lot going on other than other branches and leaves. And in this case, it's obviously, you know, fall or winter time. But so yeah, the more you can hone in on the subject, kind of disregarding, you know, the peripheral stuff. And then also what you did there, you know, bird looking to the left, leaving the dead space to the left, I think just makes a lot of sense. And if you were shooting this again, Liz, and if you had a lens that would get in close enough, get as tight as you can on that bird without cutting, you know, the head or the tail off a little bit, but just get really tight in, because unless there's something else really interesting going on around, I think you really, it's really nice to just show the bird, because that's that's the subject for sure. Yeah. But it's a cool moment too, and it's a great looking bird. So yep. I don't know how much room she has to play with on cropping, but yeah, just something to think about.
Yeah, I'm not sure either with the higher resolution, but definitely would crop in a little bit, or as you suggest, out in the field, get as tight as you can. I'm gonna guess someplace in California, because looks California-ish with this tree, and then I think we've got a bunch of sea lions over here, and really just a couple quick comments here. One, we have just the little bits of rocks peeking up. They're just part of a, Steve likes to use the word story a lot, kind of the idea of the story. I think that's a great way to, this is another part of a story that we're just seeing so little of that we want to get rid of those. So I'm going to come up just past those. And then the thing that we can't do anything about right now, but thinking about when you're out in the field, Liz, is this story of all of these sea lions, elephant seals, whatever, some kind of sea mammal. It looks like it ends an inch or a millimeter off of the right-hand side. I'd love to be able to see that end, to kind of have a finish feel to it.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, anything else that you see, David? Well,
not really. I mean, I think it's such a beautiful scene to begin with. This is another situation where if you have, and I don't know what lens she has access to, but if you have a lens that can zoom in addition to taking this shot that shows the water and the rocks, definitely get a shot of just the structure, the home and all that, because there's a lot of information there that's really beautiful. But I do love that she put that in the top left and gives you some context and some like perspective of where this home is or structure, church, whatever this is.
Yeah.
And then just the magnitude of these rocks around. I mean, it's a really cool image. I mean, there's a lot to really admire in this, and I think you're right. Just a couple little tweaks. Always think about your edges, folks. Always think about, like, really start and just trace around the edge of your image and make sure that there's not anything that's cut off in a weird way or anything that's drawing your attention away from the subject. You always want to lead your viewer into the main thing. And if there's something on the edges that's going to distract, like those rocks that were on the bottom, I felt like there just wasn't enough of the rocks there to justify having them in the shot.
Yeah. And one thing else we could do is we could come in tighter so that we say, yeah, maybe this continues on indefinitely. We don't have that feeling.
Yeah.
We also, we then hide that little bit of a chunk that was sitting over there as well. But I really like your suggestion of maybe a little bit more up above to get just a kind of a better sense of this place.
Yeah. That's cool. That's
Very
a really
nice.
special image.
Thanks, Liz. Caitlin has submitted this one. It just makes me go,
oh,
yeah.
Cute
pup. You want to start here, David?
Yeah, I mean, wow, that is a very cute dog in the boat. It's a cool moment happening here. I would be afraid my dog would be jumping out. She probably would have by this point. So the only thing I see initially is, I mean, I think there's probably some tonality stuff that could be adjusted, maybe making the dog a little brighter and bringing the background down a little. I mean, a lot of I use that radial gradient a lot just to kind of draw your eyes into the subject, because your brightest spot in this photo is definitely in the sky and kind of like at the tip of the boat and the water. And so my eye kind of keeps going that way, especially with the leading lines of the boat, like taking me sort of north. Like it takes me away from the dog, and the dog is what we really want to see here. So you could even crop, I think, a little bit of the left side out to where those trees that are on the end of on the left. Just kind of get those out. I think that'll take away some of the distraction there. But I think that helped a good bit. And it's photographing animals like this is tricky. And the cool thing is you got this cute little pup looking right at you and making a sweet face, and it's it's not just out in a grassy field. It's got some context. It's really cool. I would recommend too, if I can say real quickly, there's an amazing dog photographer. Her name's Kaylee Greer, and her website is just Dog Breath Photography.
Oh, cool.
And her stuff it will blow your mind, but it's so inspirational in seeing what you can do just with basically the gear that we all have. She has some amazing stuff.
Yeah, good. I like your suggestion. For those watching, I threw two graduated or radial filters over. One was inverted to brighten, and one was not inverted. It was an extroverted radial filter, and it just slightly darkened. And I do think that was a great suggestion and looks nice. Yeah,
definitely.
Only other things that I could suggest is you could talk about maybe reframing. This is in editing, but for a picture like this, reframing so that the dog is fully below this little bit of edge of the boat, and also the bow is not touching that green. But I don't know. I think it's a nice picture, and I think with a couple quick little changes like that, it looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Cool. We're gonna move on. Paul was recently in Hawaii and has come back with some lovely shots. Got this kind of receding Hawaiian cliffside coast.
Wow.
I see that. And then, David, where does your eye end up after seeing those lovely cliffs?
Well, that's a good question. It ends up on the grass, the green grass for me.
Yeah.
Which isn't a bad thing, but it's, I just wonder if, like, as far as tones go, if it was really, you just saw kind of like the water and the cliffs and not as much of the foreground. And just as a caveat, like any suggestion or thought I have, and I'm sure you would say the same, Toby, is these are just like what ifs. What would happen if? It doesn't mean we're right. It doesn't mean it's even good, but sometimes you just want to play around and see what makes this stronger, what makes it better, or maybe it's fine as is. I mean, it's actually a really beautiful image.
Yeah. I know. I agree. And yeah, we're always just trying to play around. And sometimes when it's my own image and I bring it in, I just start moving sliders to figure out, does it look better a little brighter? Does it look better a little darker? I do think that this grass is kind of bright, and I follow it and then end up at this messy bush that's slightly out of focus in the corner.
Yeah, that's definitely, and I'm seeing a slightly smaller version of it on my screen. So yeah, I guess that is kind of.
Yeah. So I think it's a good suggestion to look at ways of maybe trying to get rid of. Now, shooting it there, it looks like you could have taken a couple of steps further forward, unless there's some guardrail or something like that, and kind of simplified this image to something a little bit more like that. It still needs a little Photoshop work in the corner, I think, because I don't want any part of that out of focus bush. But then we do have this kind of a simpler, but I think stronger image that just has these nice repeating cliff lines here.
Yeah, I think that looks good.
I might go into the green, and play with that a little bit, see if we can green it up, make it feel a little bit more Hawaii, a little bit more saturation. I really don't do a whole lot with the global saturation, but once you get into the individual colors, I think you have a lot more leeway to work with just what you want. And let's just see, brighter or darker. I think you could go either way. I think that's some personal preference there. Yeah,
that's cool. I mean, it's definitely got good composition, even as it was, when you first showed it to us, having the cliffs off to the right and having the rocks kind of to the left. I mean, I felt like all of that was in the right place. It just maybe benefits from being cropped in a little more. Yeah.
No. And then let's move on to Adam Beck. Nice.
Oh yeah, look at that.
There's a lot to like about this image. I think, in a way, it's kind of the opposite of, we talked about getting really in tight on that hawk, which I totally agree on. But then in this one, I love all of this negative space and kind of
absolutely
thoughtful centering of our subjects. And I think black and white was a great choice here because it took away any kind of distraction of what might be messy ground to cover, little bits of brown dirt showing through.
Yeah, definitely. I would just, if I can just start, I'm curious what it would look like as a square image, just leaving the top as is, but just like
come up.
Doing kind of a rule of thirds there with the horizon. I mean, to me, it's stronger because there was a lot of the same in the foreground.
Yep.
But then again, it takes away some of that magnitude of like the distance. So I don't know. I mean, my taste, I probably would crop it in more like that, or even if there was enough information, even crop it as a landscape, at 2x3 or something. But then again, I don't want to, I don't know what the story was that Adam was trying to tell, if it was really to show the distance and the grandness, but
I think, this is one of those things where I'd love Chat's opinion, because I think it can go either way. I liked when I saw your initial up here, and there still is that feeling of the distance between us and our subject. It still is there.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's terrible either. It does seem too much now. I don't know. I think it's cool though. My only other comment is I would love a tiny bit of extra separation between her head and this building. I would love her to have taken 3 big steps this way, I think.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But it's, that's minor. And I think overall, this is a really nicely, thoughtfully composed image. Yeah.
Brian Scanlon was saying he thinks we could eliminate some sky. And that definitely was something I thought of. I mean, it depends on, I don't know. I don't know if this was like, those snowy clouds are so evenly white that you're not going to get a whole lot of texture, but
no, let's just bring exposure down and see if anything shows up now. Not in the JPEG Adam submitted. Maybe in your original, you might have some detail up there. I mean, when we're out in the field, go ahead.
Oh, well, I was gonna say, but then again, sometimes having just a big blank white area in a situation like this, in a black and white photo on a
Yeah.
snowy day,
Yeah.
in my opinion, it kind of works because it really brings the attention all to the trees and the home and all that. So I don't know.
Yeah. When we're out in the field, oftentimes when we're talking like how, we talk about not splitting your horizon in the middle. So how do you know? Should it be more sky for the 2/3 or should it be more land for the 2/3 or foreground? And I often say, where is the more interesting stuff happening? And there's not interesting stuff happening in the sky, but rules are meant to be broken. And all of that negative space, I think, can be really interesting. It's just this kind of adds to the vastness. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep. Yeah. So Shiznut says maybe some sky replacement. Yeah, I should pop it in Skylum and put in some nice blue puffy white clouds. Yeah. But yeah, that's an option too if people want to go that route. Yeah. All right. So if you are not a Pen member and you would love to submit photos, well, consider becoming a Pen member. Again, photorec.tv/pen. Ridiculous prices. $15. I think it's $15, 6 months membership, $24 for a year. And that
can't
comes
beat
with
that.
It is. It is. That comes with tons and tons of benefits. So take a moment, look at that. And if you did submit, and if you're a Pen member and you haven't submitted yet, hey, take some time. People find this very useful and helpful. And so we enjoy doing it. All right. Let's see. We got some news stories. Let's start with a big headline one. We just talked about replacing the sky in that image. We've got Instagram apparently flagging images that are faked. So should us kind of digital composite artists, Tanya, should you be concerned with some of your digital composites that they're going to get flagged? So
that's a good question.
This screen and get into this. So here we are. First source is Facebook. Actually, the only source is Facebook. Did I do source 1 and 2 wrong? Did I do them the same? No. Okay. Here's the original post by Toby Harriman. No relation. Just share the first names. And says that what he saw was a clearly photoshopped image, clearly to him. This is fun. This is beautiful. I love it. But, I would not for a second think that that was real. And I wouldn't think that the artist was presenting it as real.
Right.
And on the original artist's posts, it's not flagged. But it was picked up by a second Instagram account and then shared out without any kind of supporting information. And there, how he came across it was no image. It just says, hey, this is false information. Independent fact checkers say this is false.
Oh my
and
gosh.
You have to click to actually see the image. Then it was hidden. And so that started a huge discussion and worry of artists, artists, understandably so, were like, hey, if I'm making beautiful composites, they're not going to be seen and they're going to be flagged as false all the time. That initial concern doesn't seem to be as true. But then, as you saw, I brought up that other story. This one, I believe, is straight from the artist, and it was flagged this way.
Interesting.
And, again, I'm not sure exactly how this was presented.
Right.
But is this really what Instagram should be spending its time on?
Yeah, it's so interesting. I don't know what Instagram's sole purpose is anymore. I mean, I know when it first started out, my wife was one of the first. She was a very early adopter to Instagram. I mean, she has the handle just at Jennifer Carr, which, that would be pretty hard to get.
Yeah.
And I know at first it was very much just posting pictures that you took with your phone and just kind of like, hey, we went here, we went there. Here's my dessert. Here's my other dessert. Here's my other dessert. But it does seem like, obviously it's become more of a platform for people to share anything that they want to share, images. And I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of falseness going on Instagram that's not Photoshop. It's just people being false people. And if you want to pick a bone about being false, I think a lot of people are doing that without being creatives,
Yeah. So, I mean, you go back to the original poster, you can see that shot is right there. And then these other ones, I love these. These are fun.
Yeah.
And some of them look like they could be a real shot, and some of them I'm pretty sure are photoshopped. There are some that blend the line, but is it important to know that this is a faked image?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah,
And this,
that's interesting.
and it brings up the question, Peter Lick, who still, as far as I know, has never publicly responded. Peter Lick, very famous landscape photographer, galleries all over the world. He has that shot that multiple people have said is a composite, with the moon actually slightly in front of the clouds, slightly in front of clouds. And you know, there may be, and his caption suggests that it's not a composite. So, and I don't think he's ever responded about that. Will that be flagged in the future? Does it matter if you're a verified Instagrammer or not? So there's a lot of messiness to this. I love the idea of some fact checking happening, because there, as you said, there's a lot of just false out there. Facebook, Instagram, both.
Yeah.
But we get very messy very quickly in trying to say, well, we should warn people that this is fake. Do we need to warn people that those Skittle Mountains are fake?
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't get, like, and when I was talking about falsehood too, I was, you know, I'm speaking more of like the way people present their lives. And I mean, there's a lot of that, just it's none of it's real. I mean, you know, it's some of it's representative of real things, but at the end of the day, it's just a little tiny lens that you get to funnel all of your life through. And so if you're creative and you're just trying to show people what you do, there's a girl here in Atlanta who does these amazing paintings of horses, and she's become quite popular for them. And I mean, well, those are paintings of horses. Is she going to get flagged for that's not a real picture of a real horse? I don't know.
Yeah.
Where do you draw the line?
I don't know. Tanya says if they're going to come up with a system, they need to come up with a system that will determine art from false info. So, yeah,
I agree.
I agree. Yeah,
they can't. I mean, I like posted something on my story recently. I was going through a bunch of old reel-to-reel tapes of my dad's, and I had some tapes of like the Beatles and Elvis and stuff, and I had little clips that I was just playing of like different things, and boy, they pulled that stuff down right away. And I'm sure it was AI. Really? Oh yeah, it was like we pulled it because, you know, with copyright stuff, I wasn't even thinking about it. I just, but they're on it.
Yeah, it's quick. It's quick these days. Maybe the system that we'll be using in the future for both picking our pictures and maybe telling true from false is this. So Canon has shown off this new artificial intelligence powered plugin for Lightroom Classic that's going to cull images for you.
No way.
David, you've been doing some wedding and some portrait photography. You come home with a couple thousand images. Do you enjoy going through all of those?
Oh gosh. You know, here's what I don't enjoy is that I have a goal to come in and not touch one slider until I've gone through and picked the ones I want to work on. But sure enough, I come across one that I'm like, oh, that one's kind of cool. And I start tweaking it and editing it. And 45 minutes later, I haven't even culled anything, and I'm like working on a photo. So yeah, it's a discipline that is really hard, but yeah, that would be, I'm very interested to see how AI is going to cull these photos the way that I would want them culled.
Yeah, that's the question. Is it going to cull the way you want them culled? So it's going to use Canon's computer vision AI engine and technical models to select images for sharpness, noise, exposure, contrast, closed eyes, and red eyes. I hope wedding photographers aren't out there suffering from red eye issues. As the plugin analyzes images, it will flag photos with different colored flags within Lightroom for easier curation. Canon says the settings will be customizable so photographers can remain in complete control, but doesn't exactly elaborate on how those parameters will be controlled. This plugin will be available exclusively on the Adobe Exchange app marketplace in Q1 of this year for a monthly subscription. So I'm interested. This is, I've done this show for years and years now, and way back I said that we are going to have a system soon that we're basically filming when we're out there. We're not just pushing the button, but the camera's just always capturing, and then you plug them into something and the AI is going to pick out the sharpest and the best frames. I think that's where we'll be. I don't think it'll be actually soon. And this show just received the record for number of times I've air quoted things, so I'll stop. But I think that's where we're headed in the future. We're just going to be kind of constantly recording, and artificial intelligence is going to be pulling out those moments for us to review and say, that one's the good one, that one's not the good one. I am really interested to see how well this works. I do think it'll be rough at first, but it's going to get better and could be useful.
I think so. I'm going to go shut my dog up. I'll be right back.
Okay. So one of the things we've talked about on the show in the past is, robotic camera systems. I mean, are we going to be at a point where people are hiring robots to film their wedding, and then it gets plugged into AI and it automatically picks out the best pictures? And the question, all right, I'm really going to resist doing air quotes again, but the question is the best picture the best moment? So maybe, do we want that first bride and groom kiss with their eyes open? Well, Canon will flag that as, this is good. And then the next one, which has really good and is passionate, it's a good, passionate first bride and groom kiss, their eyes hopefully will be closed. That's usually less creepy when people are kissing. So we'll see. And Roy says, would be fun to take a bunch of the photos from experts and run it through to see how many fail, how many what. Yeah, well, I would say take a bunch of what people pick as their favorite moments, then run the Canon algorithm and see how many are similar, how many are dissimilar. I'm surprised we're here at this point already, though, but I guess it makes sense because we've got phones that already will pick the best picture. So why not put this technology into something like Lightroom, where the AI is a little bit more useful there?
I mean, it is pretty cool. And, we can all admit that, like, it's overwhelming how many photos all of us have just on our phones. I mean, forget the ones we edit and try to do things with, as photographers, but just all that, like scrolling through, trying to find the one photo from last year of this thing that happened. And then like, here we are at Disney World, and here we are at the beach, and here's Christmas. And then here's a receipt from Target. It's just like so much information. It'd be really nice to have more things that can filter that for us automatically.
Yeah, I do like Google Photos because it will automatically, so all of my phone photos automatically go to Google. And my goal for 2020 is all of my photos that I like, maybe 3 stars-ish, will go to Google Photos as a finished photo as well, because Google puts animations together with them. It does things like I take a picture of Henry, and then a day or two later, I get a notification on my phone. Here's Henry as a 13-year-old. Here's Henry as a 3-year-old. And they title it, They Grow Up So Fast. And they're just 2 side-by-side pictures. And it's just nice amazing to have something automatically happen with, as you say, all of these pictures.
That's great.
Yeah. And I've started to curate my phone photos a little bit more. I'll spend a night every couple of weekends, or I have exciting weekends, where I delete some pictures from my phone, because I will take 4 or 5 of the same scene with my phone, just similar as I do with a camera. And then I'm like, I don't need 4 or 5 in there. Google storage is cheap, but it just starts to get cluttered up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We referenced this at the beginning of the show. My friend Dan at DP Review has written this nice article. I think he did this last year as well. I feel like I remember talking about it. I think it's nice to cover. We have skills as photographers, and he's got some ways that we can use those skills to give back to the community. So first up is make portraits to brighten somebody's day. And he very nicely has linked. There are several different organizations around the US and probably the world that allow photographers to kind of donate their time and energy to giving portraits to people for various reasons that might not be able to afford it, might be in the hospital and not able to get to some place where a photographer, but if you're willing to travel to them. So again, all of our show notes are linked down below, but this one is there. And I really just want to highlight it if you're looking for ways to kind of give back to the community. And also, I don't want to make self-serving, but you can also benefit from this as well. Practice, building portfolio, just kind of getting comfortable working with people or dogs, help an animal find their forever home.
Yeah.
Dogs need good pictures. There was a study I saw somewhere that talked about good pictures versus bad pictures of dogs in kennels. And, if you took the time to take the dog outside, how much faster they were adopted. So that's just kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then, we're talking about Here, David, I got an easy solution for your switching systems. You could just donate all of your old gear.
Oh, there we go. Cool.
Yeah. Teaching.
Not quite there yet.
No, I know. Not me either. Teach others the joy of photography, and just simply make a donation to inspire the next generation of photographers. And again, great links there to that. And I take a moment to read the comments because there's a lot of good additional suggestions in the comments as well. But just some easy ways to take advantage of your skills and give back a little.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And we got a couple other stories. We're not going to get to all of them, but I did want to talk about this one a little bit because, David, you are a pretty happy owner of the Nikon Z 24-70 f2.8. Would you say that's accurate?
Absolutely. I love. Hang on one second.
So Lens Rentals recently did a teardown.
Figured I would get.
Okay.
The actual lens.
Nice. Yeah.
You know, sometimes it's easier to talk about something when you're actually like in front of it or holding it. But yeah, I love this lens. I talk about it all the time, but I've had a lot of 24-70, not a lot, but I've had several 24-70s over the years. FX, you know, F mount Nikon 24-70s. You know, it's a very kind of standard, just, you know, all-purpose focal range, but I've never loved them. You know, I've always been like, I mean, I can get a lot of different types of shots, but this one there's just something about it that it's so sharp for one, and the color rendition, I didn't realize how much that could be affected just by a lens.
The lens. Yeah.
It's amazing. And cool. Yeah, the colors feel like a prime lens to me. And yeah, you don't get quite as much, you know, bokeh. Every time I say that, I think I'm saying it wrong, but but every time you don't get quite as much as you would with a prime, but I mean, I just love this lens. It's phenomenal.
That's cool. I love it's got a little digital display. I haven't shot with this lens at all. I did review the Z6 system, but I need to get my hands on this lens. So they did a complete teardown, as they often do. This is, again, the guys at Lens Rentals. I love their teardowns. Not because I ever want to take anything apart. No. I would never be able to get it back. And they actually say this was one of the most difficult tear downs that they've ever done. But that they have complained about Nikon lenses in the past, the F-mount system being kind of messy inside. Mm-hmm. And does it really matter for us photographers? No. But it's neat to see that Nikon has really moved into the future with these lens designs. They talk about it, incredibly clean design inside and out, super, super thoughtful, the way all of the wires and bits lay, just manufactured at a whole new, very future level.
Yeah, you can tell. I mean, because I had the 24-70 f4, which is kind of the kit lens that you can get with the Z6 and the Z7, and it's a fantastic lens. It's sharp. Mm-hmm. It's a great lens, and the value is wonderful on it. But I had seen enough reviews of this one that were just convincing, and just, you know, we struggle with this chromatic aberration thing, which some photographers might be like, what is that? You know, I don't even care. Mm-hmm. But, you know, when you start seeing little fringing of purple and green on your images around the edges, it's kind of annoying. And I mean, just get virtually none of that with this lens. And it is built really well. It's solid. It just feels, like you said, like futuristic sort of technology. I will say the little display is kind of gimmicky. Like, is it? I never use it. I mean, it's cool that it does it. They say, oh, well, you know, if you're shooting out in the dark, you can see what your aperture is, but you can also see that on back of your camera or in your viewfinder. I mean, it's cool, but it probably made it where they could charge more money for it, because this sucker is pricey.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I know we get grumpy about the pricing, and I know that Nikon has announced their 70-200 that's coming is going to be almost $3,000, $2,800. Is that right?
Yeah, it's just under 26. It's it's competitive with the Sony and the Canon.
Yeah. But you know, you look at both the electronic engineering that goes into it, and then the optical engineering, and the marriage of both of those together.
Yeah,
these are high precision, and they are at a level quality-wise that far surpasses stuff that was being produced, you know, just a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it's a whole different level. It's hard for me to explain just how. It just is so much better.
Yeah. So if you switched away from Nikon, you'd have to give that lens up.
I know. I mean, it's things like that that make me want to stay. It's a lot of things that make me
Yeah.
want to stay, but
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah. And then two last stories we're going to wrap up with. One is I've been waiting for this forever. I actually, so funny how you end up hearing about stuff. There have been little rumors about the Evo 2 coming out. And then when we were on the McKay workshop, I was standing photographing the lighthouse in Maine and struck up a conversation with the photographer next to me. Turns out his brother-in-law is chief marketing officer for Autel. And he was like, well, I was talking, we just started talking about drones because somebody was flying one nearby there, even though they weren't allowed to. It wasn't me. And he's like,
Yeah.
oh, my brother works for Autel. And I said, oh, man, I reviewed the original earlier last year, almost exactly a year ago, I think. And I just did this quick kind of like 5 reasons why I really like it. It's a really nice drone and I think offers a nice alternative to DJI's kind of dominance. And he was like, well, they're going to be announcing a version 2 very soon. And I was like, oh, can you get in an email to your brother-in-law? He was like, yeah, sure. And then I haven't heard anything more. But
just don't give up hope, you know?
I know. I actually did email him just again the other day. Hey, just following up.
Yeah.
So here's what's got me excited about it. A lot of the same kind of stats that the pro level drone from DJI has currently, but it is starting at just $14.95. It's going to come in 3 different versions, but right now, 40 minutes of flight time. 40.
Wow.
I also think it's interesting though. I don't know if DJI is the same or not. I've never timed my flying of the DJI. 40 minutes in forward motion versus 35 minutes at hover. So it's actually easier for it to fly forward than hover in place.
Interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. Extended range is actually about the same as DJI, maybe a little bit less. Obstacle avoidance, the same as the Mavic Pro 2 system. And then we get down, we're going to have 3 different versions of it. We've got this Evo 2 at $14.95. It's capable of 8K, 8K stabilized very nicely. We will have a 6K with a 1-inch sensor. And that sounds really exciting to me as well. If it can be anything as good as the quality is of the Mavic 2 Pro, I'll be impressed. And then they're going to have an 8K and thermal combination kind of for your professionals, mountain rescue people, or, they talk about like contractors trying to do a, photo mapping of a house to figure out where the heat leaks are coming from.
Oh, right.
So this looks really exciting. There was a lot to like about the Evo original, and I'm hoping to get my hands on the Evo 2 as soon as possible. If you really don't like that whole idea of DJI being completely China owned and having all of the geofencing built in, I'm kind of 2 minds of the geofencing. I've never personally been able not to fly someplace where I needed to photograph and video our travels. But I can certainly understand some people that might be within 4 miles of an airport or something like that get really annoyed that they can't fly in their backyard. On one hand, it keeps those people in those airplanes safe. On the other hand, I think there should be some easier ways for people to fly if they're not going to be dumb about it. So
it's a pretty cool looking drone.
It really is. And, a couple of things that I really liked about the original is you don't need a phone. You have some additional capabilities if you plug a phone into the controller, but the controller comes with its own little screen. So it's
I like
very, very fast to get up and running.
Yeah.
That's cool. You can even do easy VR with it. And I think it really offers a nice alternative. So it's nice to see another company with some, with a real competitor. And some people might say, I don't know if anybody in the chat mentioned the Skydio 2. That's the new drone that does amazing tracking. It's really sports focused, but it's neat to see DJI is getting some competition kind of from both ends, and having some alternatives. I think competition's good.
Yes, absolutely.
Good. Okay, and last story that I wanted to share with you all, there's a couple that I think are great on here. Petapixel's got 3 posing tips that you should go look at. And, we did everything else except for that. But PhotoPills, my favorite app for figuring out all kinds of astronomical stuff. One of the things I love is on an Android phone, you're running PhotoPills, and you can have this little widget showing you all of the important, can you even see what I'm holding up? All the important stuff like sunrise, sunset, moonrise, moonset, and galactic core. The galactic core is not visible to me until Sunday, January 26th. So
Hmm.
that's probably for like 10 seconds.
Hmm.
But they have a nice definitive guide for photographers to all the astronomical events of 2020.
That's cool.
And it's all here month by month, but they do a nice little highlight. And one of the things that I saw that they really pull out is it's going to be a great year for meteor showers, because as most of them peak, there won't be a lot of moon on that day. So this past year, we had a couple of full moons coinciding with some of the meteor showers, which makes it very hard to see those. So you can take
Well,
a look.
if only we had Peter Lick to like composite the moon out during the meteor shower, we would have
Yeah,
been.
I don't know if he can go that way. He went the other way,
Oh
but I
yeah.
don't know if he
Okay,
can
cool.
go back out.
All respect to Peter Lick. I'm just
Yeah.
kidding,
I
joking.
know, but it's interesting though. So
It is. Yeah.
yeah. All right, we got a couple of quick questions we're going to answer, and then we're going to wrap this show up. Tim Scott wants to know, how do professional photographers on this feed help people offering this service for free? This article created a lot of dialogue on. How do professional photographers on this feed hate? What do you? Sorry, there's a word we're missing here. You say, how do professional photographers on this feed hate people offering their services for free? This article created a lot of dialogue at my company. Oh, are you saying that there is some controversy with professional photographers doing the give back to their community? Is that what you're asking, Tim? Not hate, feel. Oh, how do professional photographers feel about people offering their service for free? Okay. I can understand that. So, there's always the discussion of lots of people out there want their photography in exchange for exposure. Crap, I used air quotes again. Done talking. And so with all of these kind of communities and give back options, how do professional photographers feel? I don't know. I would think that all of those sites listed are to help people that can't otherwise really afford or are not in a position to buy. So it's not a question of some photographer who makes their living doing that losing out, in my opinion, because they would never have been hired in the first place.
Yeah, and that's, I don't know. There are a gazillion photographers out there, and I don't know. I actually work with an organization here in Atlanta called Love Not Lost, and we go to homes and hospitals and places where basically we serve these families who have loved ones with terminal illnesses, and we go do portrait photography for them and their families and all that. And I don't feel any kind of conflicted feelings about doing that. And I don't know if I'm touching on exactly what you're talking about, but
I think you are. And I think that Tim's question kind of, though, also touches on the bigger question of charities and helpfulness aside. There are photographers out there who are willing to work for exposure from time to time or to build a portfolio. And how do professional photographers feel about them? So it's, I think.
Oh yeah. Well, you know what? And I got a little lost in some of the wording. I think about this a lot. The way I see it is, and I actually, I'm going to be talking about this in a podcast soon, is the barrier to entry. We always say this in photography. Oh, the barrier to entry is low, So that's true. But that only means to me that the bar of excellence is that much higher. So, there's always going to be somebody willing to do it for cheaper. And if the client doesn't know the difference, they're going to hire the cheaper person. And you've got to be so good, not just at the skill of photography, but at the way you market yourself and the way you present yourself. All of that has to be in place if you want to get the job where you're going to get paid and you're not just doing it for exposure. But there's also, we all have to do certain things for exposure sometimes in an oversaturated market. Sometimes you just have to bite the bullet and say, this will get me in front of people, which might lead to more jobs. And
yeah, I think that's fair. You said that idea of there's always going to be people to do it for free, and you have to set yourself aside. And we were kind of joking about this at the beginning. It's slightly related. We got to be social media experts as well as photographers these days. And sometimes that feels like a big struggle, but you have to be an expert in ways to sell yourself, to say, hey, I am worth this. If you need this quality, then this is what you need to pay for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
that's competition.
Yeah. And then a question for you, David, from Andrew. He wants
Oh,
to.
yeah.
Do you have a recommendation for a good budget mic for recording voiceovers? I know you have the one you have is great, but probably out of my budget.
Yeah, I mean, this is like the broadcast mic you'll see most radio DJs using, and I mean, this is a Shure SM7B, which is this thing's been made since the 70s. But it's about $400. It's a pretty pricey mic. There are a lot of options. I can't remember the actual model numbers, but if you just do a real quick Google search for like good podcasting mic or good budget level broadcasting mic, there are a lot of really great options for like under $200, at least under 250. And a lot of them are USB, so they plug right into your computer. This one has to go through an interface and which warms the sound up and all that, but it's, there are some options.
I just realized my mic's been kind of far away from me for this show. I don't know how much that matters. I'm using the blue Yeti, I believe it is, even though it's not blue, it's black. And that's a great mic. That's a USB mic, and I've been happy with it. That is about, I think, $199. I think it comes in at, but I think they have a smaller version now that is more affordable as well. So,
I think they do.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. And Roy says Blue Yeti has some nice deals. So take a look at those. Yeah. All right. Brian says marketing is what those jobs are called where you're working for exposure. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
All right. David, hey, thanks so much for hanging out with us. We've chatted and you'll be back next week. We'll be back together next week. I'm very excited for that. And if you're watching this show and you haven't hit that thumbs up yet, take a moment to hit that thumbs up yet. And remember, down below, links to go follow David Carr on Instagram and the podcast. Just put it in your feed, and then you're driving, you're taking a long road trip, and you're like, what am I going to listen to? You're going to listen to David's podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And it's going to get better and better. I've got more guests coming on. I'm also going to start doing a thing where I can have guests call in so I can interview people from other parts of the country and the world and stuff. So it should be a lot of fun.
Cool. Great. All right. Well, we're looking forward to those. Chat room, thank you so much for your time hanging out with us, and have a great rest of your week. And we'll see you back here next week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.